You're the guest. You do what you want. He asked for my bank account pin. I think I can trust him.
Look, I've made mistakes in my life, okay? But it's what gets you to here. It's what gets you to doing what I do today. So I'm super excited about the way that I look on camera. You guys don't have to worry about this stuff up here, you know?
We didn't invent fiat till Roswell. The aliens had some dollar bills when they crash landed. Caleb knows a lot of words. Concise isn't one of them.
That's a fair point.
It's too big of a word.
Welcome back to C4. This week we're doing a special episode where we're interviewing our buddy Scotty B about his new crypto company.
Hey everyone, I'm Brandon.
Scotty B.
Scotty B.
He's Scotty B.
That's how I go.
There's too many Brandons. So give us a rundown of what you're doing.
Yeah, so right now I'm working in the privacy sector, mostly trying to build a company that can make transactions of pretty high risk, currently known as high risk transactions, be done in a private, safe way for people that are involved in it. The first place that we saw that you could go was marijuana, so we're building a platform for people to transact safely with marijuana and not need to have all of the licenses and regulatory involvement that the governments are kind of putting on to people right now. It's a competitor to weed maps, basically, and the objective is to target the low-end growers of marijuana that are, just the guy that you are used to when you were in high school. Nowadays, they're called caregivers, and they do have the ability to sell marijuana to people and to dispensaries and all that stuff. And it's basically like taking the idea of farm to table and putting it into marijuana is what we're kind of doing. And you can use cryptocurrency and privacy stuff in order to make sure those transactions are both safe on both ends and legal. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So you're going up the food chain with it too? Like, are you targeting marijuana grow facilities and then the light providing companies and the watering companies and all that?
That's an interesting question. So yes, we are. And the reason why we're doing that is because actually most businesses right now are vertically integrated in the marijuana industry. So you control the grow op to the processing of the plant to the creation of edibles and concentrates and all that stuff. Florida is probably the biggest people that do this, that you basically, it's pay to play right now. So we're trying to target the people that have small operations. Like in my hometown, there's a place called Sun and Soil Grow. They do all the lighting and that kind of stuff, and they really lost a lot of business when the state put down a lot of regulations with recreational marijuana. Mm-hmm. Basically, the light producers were coming from California and all that stuff to take business from them. So yeah, we are trying to target all the way up the food chain, and we want to have a marketplace that isn't just for buying and selling marijuana, but it's more about buying and selling grow equipment and that kind of stuff too.
Mm-hmm. So why do I give a rip about your coin versus weed maps?
So why do you give a rip about my website over weed maps?
Yeah, I thought you were doing a coin.
We are doing a coin. We do have a token. Weed maps doesn't have a token. They're just a normal run-of-the-mill website that does POS for marijuana. For people that don't know who weed maps are, you basically go there and it's like Yelp. Yeah. For marijuana, and then you can place an order, and then you'll pay in cash upon when you get to whatever facility you're going to, or when the delivery driver comes.
So is it like Grubhub for marijuana, or?
I would say that it's more like Uber Eats, I guess Grubhub, but like, yeah, it is. It's Grubhub inside of Yelp. So Yelp actually owns Grubhub. And does all the transactions and stuff inside of the Yelp app. So that's what Weed Maps is doing, but they're fully integrating it, so they would be both Yelp and Grubhub.
Okay, yeah, so I don't have to go to two different apps. I can just
use Yelp, basically.
Before we get going too far, why don't we get the Brandon backstory?
Oh.
The introduction on who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a computer scientist by trade. I went to college for that or whatever, but I'm more of a privacy expert now. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I don't want to be. At the same time, I've made a lot of businesses that have failed. I started making businesses when I was 16 years old with my dad, an eBay business that's still like one of the top-selling eBay stores for baseball cards right now. Made a couple of different companies in college. One that we ended up getting to sell that was a web design company. And then I've done a couple of things for Google. And I've worked on projects like Pocket Doc, which is like a cryptocurrency app for healthcare facilities. And I've done some a lot of nonprofit work. I've helped with the matrix.org. So basically what it all boils down to me is over the years, I've created a profile of like trying to be super private, but also being able to be who you are. I think that like there's a lot of people that want to be super private, but they're wanting to be super private because they're super sketchy. And I want to be someone who can show that you can be super private and not be super sketchy. And if something sketchy happens, like that, it's traceable, one, but it's like you own up to your own mistakes, but you can handle yourself on your own. So like that's what I do is I make that possible for people using technology, using computer science.
So you're trying to couple privacy with accountability.
Yes, yeah, exactly what I want to do. I want people to both be private and be accountable for their actions.
It's kind of the skinny on your background. What is it about the in-between those serial entrepreneurial ventures that made you want to be private about everything you've done? What is it about, like, usually people have a backstory on why they don't trust the government or why they're getting into crypto. What about your life has made you especially interested in your privacy?
That's a really good question. So I think that it stems from my childhood, actually. I grew up in a town that was like dominated by Walmart. Walmart distribution center in my hometown I think it employs 65% of people. So, and the minimum income for where I grew up is under poverty levels. And I saw big corporations take down and tear down my entire hometown. The downtown area is completely shut off. So from an early age, I saw what big corporations can do to people who are undereducated. And so I think that's where it first started. And then as I started building things for Argo Labs was like one of my first company that really like I took off with, I guess. When I was building stuff there, I just kind of noticed that people didn't really know what they were doing, and they would trust anyone who said they could do something. And that's really scary, and I want them to feel confident in something that's going on the internet. And I think that boils down to a security matter and a privacy matter for them. Like they're just giving out all of this information left and right to me, to anybody, to build them something, to do something, to get a step ahead. And they're all just giving out all of this information all the time. And they're doing it for no money or something like that. So I think what it really boils down to where I came from, and just seeing how much people are willing to like give out their information for me to do something for them. Like I remember a particular client when I first started that we needed to build her like a little basic store or whatever. And I was like, yeah, so you need to log in and put in your routing number, your bank account information, and your social security number. And she was like, oh no, here's all my info, and typed it to me in a text message. Like it was no big deal to someone that she like hired to build a website. And so seeing how insecure people are with their own information just kind of like red alerted me that there might be a need for something there. And then in 2012, I learned about Bitcoin. And I learned about the privacy of transactions there and was like, wow, that's like a really cool idea. So I kind of started dabbling in it there. So that's where I guess my privacy background comes from.
So you mentioned that you grew up with a bunch of undereducated people that got taken advantage of by big corporations. If they can't understand that the big corporation is taking advantage of them, what's your strategy for getting them to adopt something like Bitcoin, where it's another faceless person behind a logo and they don't necessarily know how Bitcoin works because it's just magic in the machine as far as they're concerned? How do you translate what they know about fiat currency to educating them about Bitcoin, educating them about the advantages of it? So
I think that the education boils down to when it comes to people that don't really know what's going on, if you talk to them about if you ask them a simple question like, where does your money come from? The money that you're handed, where does that money come from? How is that money handled before it goes to you? And they start to maybe get a little bit of a bigger picture of what's going on, and then they realize that maybe there's something more at play. Like you don't really have to go far to look at someone who works 80 hours a week in a factory making $13 an hour to convince them that there's something that's a little messed up about that system and that kind of environment. What the problem is that Walmart and Amazon and PayPal or anybody, they've all made it super easy for these people to use all of their products. So I think it boils down to, I want to make it as easy to use as those things and employ them or do whatever in the easiest way that they're used to and transition it smoothly just to put it into like the power of the individual a little bit more. So you can't really change much about what they're looking at. It's more about giving them the idea that like Walmart doesn't have to fuel the whole town. You know, you don't have to have these big corporations coming in to save the day.
So is your strategy going to be able to create things that are smaller in nature? So you're basically trying to convert one town at a time so that you can get a currency flowing, or?
I would love to convert one person at a time. And I think like that it starts with transactions. Like it just starts with any interface or anything that I do, I have to start thinking about like, I want to educate people on where does the money that I have in my pocket come from and where is it going once I give it to these people. And you can teach people a little bit more when you kind of ask those big, broad questions to them, even the people that don't have huge backgrounds. If you're just like, why does the government take so much money out of your paycheck? Is a good, like another great example, like taxing and that stuff. Do you know why that happens? Do you know that there's an alternative solution to that you could be doing over here? And I learned from the guys that started this company a lot about just individual tax laws. Like a lot of people don't know that taxes are for the most part self-reporting. Mm-hmm. So I think just educating people on those kinds of things in a broad sense.
But if I don't have, so I'm working 80 hours a week for $13 an hour in a factory. I don't have time in my personal life or the energy at the end of the day to even educate myself about the taxes that's already being taken out of my money. Why do I give a rip about the newest thing?
I mean, it's probably goes to the extent of the people that are employing them are going to be the ones that get educated first on these things, and you do have to convince like middle employers. But at the same time, if they're working for Walmart and you talk to somebody who, for example, says the person works in motor vehicles or whatever. I don't know if Walmart had like an automotive center like Lowe's did for a while, but I tell you that the local car shop over here can pay you a little bit more money for doing what you're doing, and you don't have to change much about your life except now there are actually some people have reached points where I give you US dollars and then I do all this stuff with crypto and it turns out back into US dollars for people. So for that person that's working 80 hours a week, you don't have to really tell them about anything except there's another job, another person that will pay you more money to do what you're doing for 80 hours a week. And the reason that they can pay you more money is because they're not dealing with all these big financial institutions. So that those people, I don't know if they get educated by themselves, but I think that they get educated by their employers. And I think it's about targeting middle employers that need people to work for them, but they can't pay the amount of money that Walmart can right now.
Your hometown is how big?
It has 10,000 people total.
10,000. Mm-hmm. And of those 10,000, like 65% work for Walmart?
I would say that probably 50 to 60% work for Walmart, yeah.
Okay. But between the store and the distribution?
Oh, between the store and the distribution, probably gets higher. I'm just talking about the DC center, yeah.
All of the businesses that would be using, first of all, what's the coin called?
Privada means private in Latin.
Okay. And that is separate from your other product.
Yeah, so I run Privada. I'm the guy in charge of this. It's a nonprofit, similar to Dash.
He's the provider of Privada.
What?
I said you're the provider of Privada.
Yes, the provider of Privada. That sounds like a good slogan. But yeah, Privada is just a token that handles at high-risk transactions. It's a competitor to Zcash.
So that would theoretically enable a small business to pay similarly to a large business because of the tax loopholes. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say because of the tax loopholes, but I would...
Loophole's a bad word.
Loophole's a bad word. It allows for you to distribute finances in a much more private manner that the regulation from the government is self-reporting.
Okay. Anywhere we go from here on the self-reporting feels real funky.
I think a better way that I can explain it is the amount of time and effort that it takes them to prepare tax documents, to prepare any sort of government involvement for their finances is done using a third-party person, usually someone like H&R Block, State Farm, something like that, and we handle all of those things at no cost. So we're handling that kind of stuff for people, and that's where it's really incentivizing them to jump ship over to our system. And in addition to that, our system isn't a single dollar bill that has a value based on world currency. It's a value that you kind of make up yourself at start. I mean, that's what we did. We were like, let's make one privada worth X if we want to right now. And as long as the token is being used in markets, the value of it goes up. So if I keep paying people in this token, it has a higher return value over time, and it just becomes a little bit more of an incentive to use. So like, is it loopholes? No, it's just more like the reporting aspect of it is done for you, and it's done in a way that is most likely to give you the best outcome. And it's done by a computer. It's not done by a human.
So what's to stop you guys from being a central bank if this thing goes big?
So you can't, I don't control the network. I don't control where tokens are sent or how, and I can't control if you send tokens to someone or send anything to someone. I can't really control you for doing that. I can't stop you. I don't monitor how much is in your account, that kind of stuff. So we don't give loans out to people. We don't do anything like that. So we're just not regulating that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. When you take a hometown like yours where all of the jobs have already been extricated somewhere else, how does it help that regrow? Because you're taking like middle and small size companies and you're allowing them to pay in a way that lets them be competitive with Walmart, which is huge. Mm-hmm. That's a bit like, if nothing else,
yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, that's my goal. Like everyone focuses on our marijuana stuff, but that's really where I'm at.
What do you do for a town like yours that's already had those jobs and the industry's extricated from there? I assume it's not like a magic pill that as soon as somebody starts using it, businesses are just appearing.
No, because if you do it that way, then local governments get involved, and local governments will stop you from doing what you're doing. So it starts small. It starts by picking a particular group of people that have been ostracized from traditional methods of finance and traditional methods of like employment. You got to think like the marijuana industry, the people that work for these grow shops or these people that work for growers, they're getting paid cash under the table that they can't report to. Like they can't report taxes on, or it's all pretty shady. And so, but at the end of the day, it's all really kind of shady what they're doing. And we're offering them a solution that is legal in their state, removes the shade, and removes all of those kind of tough things like handing you cash and counting cash and all that stuff. And then those people can influence the rest of the market, because you have to understand, like in where I grew up, it probably has one of the highest grower populations for marijuana in the entire state of Michigan. And most people don't even know that. Most people don't know that the southwest part of Michigan is actually some of the best marijuana in the state.
Sutter meth.
What? Well, yeah, it is. That's our number one export. Marijuana might be number two.
Turn the trailer sideways. We sold enough meth this month. We need a skyscraper.
So targeting those businesses first and those people, it ingrains it into the rest of the culture there. Because if there's only 10,000 people, everyone knows Juan at Sun and Soil. Hey, Juan. How you doing? But yeah, everyone knows him. And
shout out to my boy.
Yeah, shout out to my boy. But like, it becomes, if you can get into those places where people are typically nervous, typically scared, and show them that there's a way to not be scared, then they might want to use that for less scary things.
Well, it's like a legal security blanket at first.
Exactly, yeah.
But and to be clear, it's only shady because it's currently state legal and federally illegal.
Correct. If they federally made this legal, basically everything that we're doing would shift gears, because there's already people that are chomping at the bit for federal marijuana banking and that kind of stuff.
So I'm a pot company,
mm-hmm.
and I have all this cash around that I can't put in a bank. I have to transport in armored vehicles to store it off-site. How the hell am I supposed to take that cash and the amount of shade that I have right now and transfer it into Privada if I can't even put it into a bank to buy the coin or however?
So the cash that you have currently, we can't really handle that. That's on you. But it's about the cash that you earn in the future. So I can start earning Privada, and I can start doing transactions in Privada now, and then I can eventually get that portfolio out of cash.
So are their customers going to be the ones that have to buy the privada? Or?
Absolutely not. No one buys privada. You buy products. You buy marijuana. You buy grow stuff or whatever, and then you're paid out in privada.
If I bring cash into a store, how does that get converted to privada by the time it hits the register?
Yeah, are they like buying privada from the pot shop, and then that privada is what pays for the weed?
So first of all, pot stores that you're currently thinking of as like the target market isn't the market for us right now. It's more of the individual sales. But the answer is so I make a purchase for $40 or whatever of some marijuana. I then provide my information that the seller needs, and then I tell the seller, hey, let's meet up to make this transaction happen. I want my marijuana. I give him an SMS code. He takes that code and he inputs it, and he gets his money later. So there is no cash that I brought in. I paid for this before I went to the person.
So how does that make it more secure?
I have no cash is being transacted. No one's touching cash, and all of the payment has happened before we ever step foot into the marijuana. So I don't know if you've bought marijuana before, but if I'm buying a large amount of marijuana,
Allegedly.
if I'm buying a large amount of marijuana, even if I'm a dispensary or especially if I'm a dispensary, I could buy a large amount of marijuana from a caregiver and give that caregiver $50,000 for the marijuana that I just received, or I could give him $50,000 worth of privada before he gets there. Then all he has to do is drop off his product and leave.
So as the buyer in this, how am I assured that once I pay you, I get my product?
You give me an SMS token as the seller. So you were generated a simple text code upon your purchase. When the seller gets there, you give the seller the code to get the money back. So they don't get their money unless you've given them the SMS code.
Okay.
So basically, it is an exchange. Instead of cash for product, it's code for product.
Mm-hmm. And then how do I, as the person that got that SMS code, the money gets transferred into my account, how do I pay my bills with that? Like, how do I pay my utility bill?
Sure. So there's a platform that we're thinking about working with. It's called Hyper. They do banking for high risk people, and we want to use their API to basically have a button that clicks that says transfer to my bank account. Mm-hmm. And the way that we've set up our wallet system is that there's basically every transaction you make, you get a clean new wallet with a single transaction to it. So it makes it anonymous on the blockchains where exactly the money came from. So that's how I want to get there. How it's going to work at first is that we're going to teach people how to transfer using an exchange. We're going to teach them how to use things we're just going to have it.
Like Coinbase?
We're going to teach people how to use Coinbase, basically. And from the research that we've done, we've done a few surveys and stuff like that, people in the marijuana industry, at least, they're willing to learn how to do that to get cash out of their life. They're willing to learn how to handle an exchange account as long as they don't have to use cash anymore.
I install the app on my phone, which at this point, from what you're describing, I don't have to go like another token. I would have to go on to Ethereum and buy Ethereum to use Ethereum. Mm-hmm. This works more like Venmo, but all of the Coinbase stuff is in the background. Absolutely. For the buyer.
Yes.
So as a buyer, I hook my credit card up, my bank account information. I click a button, everything else happens automatically.
Absolutely. And I think that's the step that a lot of crypto companies haven't taken that I think puts us ahead of the game. And that's where I've wanted to put people. It's just that simple ease of use. Everything is valued in dollars when you visualize it. You just attach your bank account like you're used to doing in any Amazon or anything like that. And the buyer doesn't get it. The buyer doesn't have to see all of it. When you guys will get the product before we actually launch, and you'll see when you go to buy something, you don't know that crypto is involved. We're not going to market that crypto is involved or anything like that. That's what Privada will do. Privada will be over here marketing to people, being like, yeah, we already have a use case and all this stuff, and the people using the platform will be like, oh, it's just an alternative to weed maps.
Mm-hmm. that seems to be the biggest barrier for entry into the whole decentralized block is the actual using them. Because before, you paid me for something in Bitcoin. Literally, this happened. I don't remember what it was, whether it was like soda at a gas station or something, but you're like, here, I'll just transfer you Bitcoin. And I have a wallet. You set that up for me.
I do remember that.
Way back in the Disney. I'm going to make a confession right now. It's still sitting in that wallet.
Hey, it's probably worth more money now, so good for you.
Well,
I got 15.
Oh, no, that's right. We did this in like 2017.
Yeah, no. It was
$1,000.
It was more than 20,000 back
I don't think
then.
it ever broke 20.
I thought it was at like 22. For some
R.
reason.
Kelly didn't break 20 either, so
I don't have to feel bad. But either way, yeah, it's worth less now. Worthless. But because for me, there's a whole process going on there that just wasn't worth retrieving that money for. There's a barrier to entry that I just don't care to have in my life.
And I don't think a lot of people care to have in their life, and why cryptocurrency hasn't been adopted.
Yeah, how big would you say the crypto market is?
The crypto market?
Percentage of the population wise.
I mean, I would say that the majority of people that are using cryptocurrencies right now are highly educated people that are like financial instrument users, or they're people like yourself who maybe bought Bitcoin once in 2017 and never looked at it again. Those are the two people using Bitcoin right now, where they're like, oh, I'll check my portfolio because why not? I don't know what this means, but my $200 worth of Bitcoin is now $230. That's sweet. And I don't like that, because I think that defeats the purpose of cryptocurrencies and kind of whitewash the entire platform of like decentralization. At the very core of it, decentralization is just meant to give you the power to control each aspect of the maybe transaction or the data that you're using on the platform or whatever, because you get into bigger issues that decentralized stuff has an implication in. It's like I was talking to Casey before the show started about contact tracing that Apple and Google are making with Bluetooth, where they're going to be able to have apps and products in a couple of years. You'll see them that know your exact location down to an inch. Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Is that good? Can we do something like that to like it almost as a privacy guide? It's a scary moment.
Well, they're already within 1.5 meters.
I think that it's 10 feet.
Is it 10 feet?
Yeah, I think it's 10 feet, and that's not geographically good enough.
That's a lot.
that's terrifying.
Yeah, and so that's other
My
things.
phone's over there. They're off right now.
Yeah, that's other things. Those are other things that blockchain technology can alleviate in the future that a lot of people aren't really focused on, is getting off of that big grid from the guys in the sky.
So
Break down for me real quick. What is a blockchain? In layman's terms,
yeah,
what is a blockchain?
you're talking to two babies. That's why our heads are can't grow hair yet.
Yeah, so a blockchain is a list of data inputs and outputs. It's a list of like handshakes, basically. From really layman's terms, it's like, hey man, I have this cup here. I definitely have this cup, so I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to shake on it that it's yours now. That's what a blockchain does, is it proves that we had that handshake, and we can't go back on that handshake anymore.
So if there's a permanent record, how is it anonymous?
They don't. When I created the account that holds this cup, it doesn't have any way to connect to me. So it could be anyone handing you this cup. There are ways to backtrace to account, to Ether wallets and stuff like that, down to like, this is the origin wallet. And then they have to figure out whose wallet that might be. And that's where like that layer of privacy is. There's even bigger layers that's like, it goes, I'll give you the cup, then you give Casey the cup, and Casey's going to give me back the cup, and then I'm going to give it to someone else, and they're going to give it back to me, and I'm going to give it to you. And that's going to be but on the surface, it'll look like I just handed you the cup initially. And it kind of hides that and makes it more private.
This is going to be way more complicated than 2 girls, 1 cup.
So what you're talking about is VPN money.
Yeah, basically virtual, like privatizing, making more private this already public ledger of stuff that's happening. So I think one of the big problems too with Ether and Bitcoin and all of that is this idea that you can trace every single thing, and that's good for the idea of like knowing that that item is there. It's bad for privacy.
Okay, so, and I might have this a little bit off here. So anything on a blockchain, you have a ledger, which is just a recording of each handshake. And that is accessible by every node on that network.
Yes.
And that, how is that secure then?
Because all of the nodes have to agree that you have the ability to give that transaction to somebody. So you actually, I think it's 5 in some instances, 10 in another, where like 10 people have to say, I definitely had this cup before I gave it to you. And that's how you make it like, I guess, secure or know that things are happening, is that other people are confirming that you have what you say you have. You're not the only one confirming.
So I have to confirm.
Eyewitnesses. Digital eyewitnesses.
Yes, digital eyewitness is a great way to think of it.
Do I have to confirm that? Like I hit a button on my phone, like, yeah, that person had that cup, or how does that happen in the background?
That happens in the background. Those are what people are, those people are called miners. Basically, they have a bunch of computers set up that are chasing block rewards. So there's a set of transactions that happen in a group, and then that group of transactions is confirmed all at once, and one person confirms. One person has confirmed it enough times where they get the reward. They're chasing that big reward. Recently, Bitcoin had a halving, which means the reward cut in half. But before, it was like, if I confirmed this block, I'd get, I don't know, 2 Bitcoin or whatever it is, which is, $18,000. So people are chasing that $18,000 all the time. So those are the people that confirm it. On the front end, as a person using it, you just wait for 5 minutes.
When I make a transaction, then it's basically taxed.
Mm-hmm. That tax is called gas or transaction fee.
I guess.
Does that go to the miners?
It does.
Then?
Yep, it does go to the miner. Yep, they receive the reward. They receive the transaction fee, and then they receive block rewards.
As a person that doesn't trust the government, my end goal is to be completely off the grid. How is this still relevant for me to get interested in? Because it's private and it's anonymous and it sounds like a really good currency system. But if I don't want to be connected to the World Wide Web every moment of every day, how am I still making transactions with your coin?
Sure. So that's there are a couple of different ways that people can take their cryptocurrencies and stuff and pull it off the grid. They're called hard wallets. They're basically keys on your keychain. And they have they're called keys as well, but they have numbers and encryption on them that prove that you own the coins inside of this little keychain. I could take that and walk away with it and not use it for a while. There is a barrier to entry where if I don't have my phone on me and I don't have the ability to transact with you right now, that transferring that is very difficult. You can use these devices to do that, so I think that's the next step. When you go to, and I want to get to that step. I don't know if it'll be me. I'd love if it'd be me. That's a lot of money to be made there. But there's going to be someone in a time where they're like, okay, I have this hard wallet, and I'm just going to scan it to you over. And I think that's the next goal, and I think that's going to happen in the next 5 years. Now,
earlier, before the podcast, you were explaining your cryptocurrency has a burn rate. Mm-hmm. And like with this technology, with this hard wallet technology, if I wanted to go off the grid, first, could you, like after I ask the question, could you expound on what a burn rate means? Mm-hmm. And then if I want to go off the grid, what do I have to do with your coin in order to do that? Would it be stabilized once it's in a hard wallet, or would it need to be transferred to either a solid currency or another type of crypto?
Yeah, so when you transfer it off to the hard wallet, it is stabilized. I personally think that where you keep it and all that kind of stuff is your personal business and your personal private thing. And a big thing about us is that you own your keys. A lot of people don't give out the keys, like Coinbase and all these people. You say you buy Bitcoin and you don't really, but anyway. So I think that with our token, if you take it out of the website, put it on your hard wallet, and went out with it, it would just sit there. And it would accrue value if the value of the token went up in trades or whatever, but it would basically just sit there for you. Where it gets burned is if I keep it in my store and I don't use it in my store for a long period of time, we're going to burn it out. We're going to give you Ether, and we're going to charge you the fee to do that, and then we're going to take those coins back and we're going to delete them.
But doesn't the ability to put your crypto in a hard wallet defeat the purpose of a burn rate? Because as far as you explained to me, the purpose of a burn rate was so that this is a crypto that would be constantly in flux that you could then exchange for stable currency. But if I want to take your cryptocurrency and I want to save it because I think that it's going to be valuable to dump back in the system and make money on in 6 months, having a hard wallet would allow me to completely circumvent the reason that you're putting that base layer into the currency itself.
Yeah, you're right that could happen. That can happen with just about any type of currency, but you have to think of like how feasible that is with any type of currency. So think of like US dollars. If someone took as many US dollars as they could and shoved them back into a wallet, over a certain amount of time, the U.S. government's going to be like, we'll make more U.S. dollars, and we'll deflate the value of your currency. And that's kind of wrong. What we're saying is that we're only going to deflate the value of your currency if you're putting it into a platform that is meant for it to be used. And then there's a stake weight option that goes into like hard wallets and stuff like that, where basically we're not monitoring them. The network is monitoring how long the token's been there and giving you incentives to get it out of there, giving you incentives to use it. I think that a lot of currencies, you have an incentive to hold it. You have an incentive to do this or that. But if I give it to you right now on the platform and I'm like, okay, if you want to hold it for a long period of time, then you put it into a hard wallet and we'll teach you how to do that. But most people are just going to spend it. So I think that the idea is that most people aren't going to go about it in the way that you're talking about. And if everyone did that, then that's a problem. But that'd be a problem for any currency. If everyone stopped spending dollars. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem with Bitcoin and all that stuff is that no one's spending it the right way. No one's actually using it to go out and buy a cup.
Well, yeah, as a common man, I have no idea how to go from Bitcoin to hatchet. Like, I recently bought a really nice hatchet. If I had Bitcoin in my wallet, I would have, I could have $1 million in my crypto wallet. And if I want that hatchet, I'm just spending it on my paycheck because other than having a large amount of capital wrapped up in crypto, at this point in my life, it seems like way too much work to transfer it from this digital thing that exists in a way that I don't really understand to an actual physical product that I want to hold in my hand.
Yeah, I took that as like kind of the forefront for this first idea. So you're right. Like I wanted to go from Bitcoin to hatchet. I was like, how do I go a step further? How do I go from cash to hatchet, but using cryptocurrency? Like how do I make it so like you visualize everything in cash, but you're releasing it in a cryptocurrency? So that's a problem that's been going on in Bitcoin and everything from day one.
So why isn't there like a PayPal for it yet? Why isn't there like, I have my PayPal wallet, I have all these different cryptocurrencies. I don't really care as a general user if it's in Ethereum, if it's in Bitcoin. Like, I just want to know that if I want to buy something, it's there. That transaction happens in 20 seconds.
Not enough people are building things to let those transactions happen. And that's the difference. It's not, and people are all worried about the infrastructure of their token or all worried about making this secure or that secure. But at the end of the day, you have to have some way for people to spend it and receive it and then spend it again in the same platform.
Mm-hmm. So how is your platform? You mentioned that you're partnering with another company. Mm-hmm. Because this is obviously the end goal, is to get people to actually use crypto, to actually base their life around crypto, whether they know it or not. How do you move from where you're at now to this is an actual currency that buys actual things?
So it comes from people believing in it. So if I can get all of the growers in the state of Michigan to purchase the lamps that they use to grow their marijuana on my platform, that is a step beyond what we were expecting. Now they're selling their goods on the platform. That same money that they received for those goods is being then used again to buy lamps and all that stuff. So the end goal is that they're just transactioning on all these platforms and not really moving the money out, not really trying to they're taking the little bits out that they need for the rent or all that stuff, but they're using this money like they would think of real money on a platform, though, instead. So instead of, attaching my bank account to Amazon, attach my bank account to PayPal, attach my bank account to Facebook, I just have, while I'm on this platform, I have this amount. While I'm on this platform, I have this amount. And we're kind of removing the, need for people to understand, or I guess use, central, that card, that, idea that, I have one card I use on all the platforms. Instead, it's more like I use this while I'm on this platform. And I can use this on this platform because I got paid on this platform from it. It'd be like if you look at Reddit coins. I receive Reddit coins for a post that I use, and then I can use those Reddit coins for other things. But what if it was more practical? Instead of like upvoting a post, I could buy my cup.
Isn't that just going to be an inconvenience for most people?
It's gonna be most inconvenient for the caregiver or the person that receives the money. The end user who's buying things, who initially buys things, are just seeing dollar amounts, or just buying things like a normal person. And then it's our job to train the people that receive the money on how to properly move around in an ecosystem that isn't fiat currency. But it's none different than when someone starts a business and you teach them about tax laws, business laws, setting up an LLC. So it's about education. It boils down to.
But as a caregiver and as someone that's running a business, it's taken me a bunch of time. How am I, because it's pedantic to use cash in a grow operation. It just is. But it also sounds like it's going to be a little bit pedantic to use your currency. Other than security, what other motivating factors do you have to get people to actually be motivated enough to overcome their laziness in order to use your coin?
Yeah, so I think instead of looking at them like that they're lazy people who won't do it, it's more like you target the people that they're not super interested, but like if I held your hand and I was like, hey Casey, I'm going to walk you through how to turn the money on this platform into other money. I'm going to walk you through this whole back step, these back end things, that they're a little more willing to do it because the current way they're doing it is so risky. And you get the people that do daily transactions like buying a hatchet or something like that to use these things because the guy who bought the hatchet, he was using this thing before. So you're like a tertiary attachment. We need the people that are doing high risk transactions to start using it and realizing that if I do it this way, really security is what it boils down to, but it's also convenience and and as well like the long-term effects of holding cash. Okay, I think the best way to boil it all down for you is, do you remember signing up for a bank account?
Yeah.
That kind of sucked.
Yeah, I purposefully avoid changing banks because of that.
Because of how hard that is. Mm-hmm. So we're basically doing that for the seller inside of crypto, and we're just doing the same. We're competing with banks in the way of education. We're trying to educate you on a different alternative method back here, but the way that we grab people is through the buyer. And I think from what our studies have shown that if I can explain it to you in a way that's like, I'll take you from point A to point B, all this security happens with your transaction. If you will take the time to do this X, Y, and Z at the end point, it's worth it to them. And that's, I think, where the value comes from is how do I make it worth it to people? And it's that security as well as ease of use. I don't have to move things between me and you, and I don't have to trust you. I don't have to trust you'll show up. I don't have to trust that you'll hand me the cash money and that you'll hand me the right amount at all times. So trust and security.
So why wouldn't you set it up so that this is just purely theoretical, but I as the pot seller, I'm not selling you weed, I'm selling you the cryptocurrency that other people have paid me.
So there are laws against this, anti-money laundering and know your customer laws. Mm-hmm. So basically the customer and the purchaser both have to be aware of what's going on. And it has to be like a clean agreement of like, we are doing a good for a service, and all of the stuff that you're talking about, making it seem like that kind of is happening in the background. So I can't dive too deep into it, but if you look at a wallet when it first starts, it's as an end user, it's just a person who attached their bank account to it, and then they make a purchase. That money goes to us. Then we transact through different cryptocurrencies to produce a clean wallet that has no transaction attached to it besides the last one that doesn't tie to the buyer, and we give that wallet at the current time to the seller. So I guess that I went off topic.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, my question was basically, is it would the attraction be that once you remove all the necessary middlemen, I am basically buying cryptocurrency from you in the form of pot, and then you're selling it back to the service.
Okay, so you're right. So that is actually what's happening. The token is a standard 1155. We produce one token that then makes many of tokens. So really, what you're buying on the platform is a gram of sour diesel token for the price of it in Privada. So you're actually right on the right path. It's just all happening in the background. Instead of telling you that like you're gonna get a fancy token with a weed leaf on it that you don't know what's going on, I'm just like,
Wait, is that your weight? Is that your token?
No, our token is just a green question mark.
A green question mark.
The Riddler.
Batman.
Okay.
It's a helicopter.
Our marketing's pretty good.
I would agree with that. So let me backtrack for a second, because you mentioned earlier that one of your frustrations with Bitcoin in particular is it's not being used. I think it's a valid frustration. Do you think that is due to the crackdown on Silk Road?
I think that
when it evolved.
I think I definitely sure as hell think that's where it started. But I think that it evolved originally.
Okay. Anyway, go back to speculating. Conspiracy theory time.
I think it's not even a conspiracy theory, man. I think that it boils down to the fact that people are not willing to talk in satoshis. They're still only willing to talk in dollars. And I think that the entirety of the cryptocurrency world doesn't get that. You remember that guy in 2017? What's his name? I don't remember. That engineer that called us and he got on me about talking about things in dollars. He was like, "Oh no, you have to refer to everything in satoshis."
Yeah.
And I
won't mention a name. But yes, I remember. But what I'm saying is, would Bitcoin currently be where you would like to be if they hadn't shut down Silk Road?
It might be.
From my understanding, that's how Bitcoin was not a storage device at first. Bitcoin was purely transactional for some.
So the problem with Silk Road and those places is that the good thing about them was they were those first use cases that we're like trying to build now. The problem with them is they went too extreme. They were like, we're gonna let be put on this platform children to be sold, or all these terrible things, and you could have controlled that, but they tried to say that, well, we can't because it's Bitcoin. That's a lie. You can control what's listed on your website, and the payment method you accept is completely irrelevant to that. If they would have maybe cracked down on those, I think Bitcoin might be a little bit farther ahead than where it is, because I think that the benefit of cryptocurrencies is that I can make private transactions, things that might be high risk. I can do them legally, and I can use Bitcoin to do that a lot better than I can use cash.
Okay. So, while you were explaining that, how does that apply to Bitcoin? And they were liable for everything happening on that platform with Bitcoin. But the people who make the dollar are not liable for what happens to the dollar.
So, elaborate on your question a little bit more.
So, Silk Road was liable for everything happening with Bitcoin. Anything happening with Bitcoin. They were held liable for that. But the Federal Reserve is not held liable for what happens with the dollar. How does that logic get applied on the Silk Road?
Yeah, so I think that I think the Federal Reserve and I think that anybody that's big into fiat currency doesn't want Bitcoin to succeed. They don't want these cryptocurrencies to succeed because they have all of this money and stuff inside of the world reserve currency. And if the dollar loses to the pound, it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be that. It can be the pound. It can be the peso. If any of those things replace the dollar as the world reserve currency, it's going to catastrophically ruin their portfolios. So the reason why Silk Road was targeted as being the big place for Bitcoin is they needed a scapegoat. They needed someone to be like, hey, they're the problem. But if you look at Bitcoin now, only 4% of all transactions on Bitcoin are done for highly illicit transactions. Most of them are financial instrument tools, like just trading your money value.
Forex.
Yeah, like Forexing is like 96% of transactions on Bitcoin.
Okay.
Which I think is bad. But.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to come full circle with that question. How do you plan to avoid that same thing happening to yours?
Yeah, so I think the problem with Silk Road, and I think the problem with a lot of the DApp, as you want to call them, the DApp environment, is like it's all like driven, dab environment. It's all driven by these people who they're more worried about themselves. The founder of my company, you don't know his name, and you'll probably never know his name. The people that are behind all of this, I'm the face to the extent of where I'm the guy that basically talks to people about it, but I didn't create the app. I'm not the guy running the company, and to be honest, we don't run anything. We're going to put it on the internet, and then it's going to be a self-building project. It's going to be it has nightly builds that are all computer-generated and all this stuff, so we don't really have a leader. We don't really have someone to attack, and if you want to try and find that person, good luck.
His name's Steve.
That's really funny that you say that, actually. I'm not going to say why, but it's super funny that you say that.
Steven, we find you, Steven.
But yeah, I mean, those people, the Silk Road guy, he's sitting in prison right now, tweeting and all this stuff, getting all this publicity. He cares more about himself. I don't care about me in this instance. I don't care about being super rich. Would it be great to make money off of this? Yes. Do I think that there's money to be made? Obviously, that's why I'm in the industry. But at the end of the day, if someone else took full control of it, we got 51% attacked and they just took over the protocol, but they made it good, that's all that really matters to me. I think it's what matters to anybody on the team. So I think that's where it can be different, is that our ICO, we don't have an ICO, but if we had an ICO page, you wouldn't see it being all about the founders. You wouldn't see it being all about this white paper. It's just, here's some products and here's happens to be a protocol that they're built on. You can learn more about it by reading the technical documentation, but you're not going to get some fancy dude in a suit who's like, I'm the leader.
So you're saying that your coin is both about accountability, so you're accountable for your actions, but also privacy. Mm-hmm. If it's truly about accountability, how can I trust that it's about accountability if you have a faceless leader?
Because I think that it's not, when you think of the dollar or all that stuff, when you think about currencies being produced, they don't need a leader and they shouldn't have a leader. You're the leader of the product. You're the leader of your own privacy. All of the platforms that we're building are really targeted towards you making the decisions, you deciding what you want to do. So we don't have a leader, just like Bitcoin didn't have a leader. Satoshi Nakamoto could be one of 7 people, or it could be all 7 people.
It's Elon Musk.
It might be Elon Musk. Who knows? And so that you're not worried about the people in charge controlling what's going on. You're in charge of what's going on for yourself. So, it's not a faceless leader. It's just the dude isn't completely in charge of everything. He just is the person that's like, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, you should do that or whatever. And at the end of the day, I make decisions that he's not involved in. He makes decisions I'm not involved in. But if you want to make a decision for the protocol that change something that we're doing, you can do that if the group decides that's all right. Which the leader is everyone, I think.
As someone who doesn't smoke pot and doesn't own a weed dispensary, but as one of your friends who's known you for a while, if I wanted to help with your project or invest in this currency, how would I go about that?
Honestly, the best way right now is to
For a friend.
Signing up for any of the platforms. I don't want my friends to be involved in something that they're not going to use. So right now, I don't have something, unless you want to grow any sort of plant. We have a lot of people that do lights and stuff like that, but we're more about products that can be used to sell. So right now it's people in marijuana. If it turns out that people that sell hunting knives or sell camping gear, survival gear, they want a platform, we'll build the platform. So the best way to go about being involved in it is asking for it to happen, to be like, I need this, other people need something like this to happen. Wanting to take your money and actually own it and owning your own stuff, that's enough to us, because then we can build platforms around people. If people watch this and they're like, wow, that's a really great idea for privacy and I want to be a part of that, and it's a bunch of people that are doing camping gear, we're going to go out and we're going to hunt down people that sell camping gear, and we're going to be like, here's a website that you guys can use to put your products on and sell, and we're going to give them an area to do it. I don't want people to invest in speculating if my coin is good. I don't want people to invest in a big company. I want people to invest their time into using a platform. So right now it's people that use marijuana. Tomorrow it could be people camping. The next day it could be people that sell ice cream.
All right, yeah, because we've kicked around the idea of opening up a camping thing, of producing our own. I mean, getting the metal and all that crap is a big headache and supply chain. But like, if I was going to tomorrow, I want to open up a web-based camping store without having too many headaches. What are the advantages and disadvantages of me going through you versus me just using fiat?
Right now, I don't think that the benefit lies in anything that's tangible in terms of financial value or usability. I think it's all about ideology. The idea that that my website, my platform is going to be, unique and private. The people that are selling their gear on here are going to have. They're going to own all of their transactions, their identity on the platform. You don't have to give all of your banking information to us. You don't have to give away who you are. You don't have to sell your soul. Is probably the biggest benefit, and it's believing in it, because people believe in fiat. So the reason why you choose fiat is because you believe in it. You believe that the dollar is good. If you want something built for you to use a currency that isn't fiat, that's where we come in. We're like, okay, we have the tools to build a bunch of web apps that not a lot of people have.
So now that we're 30 minutes into using this term, what is fiat for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, fiat is a currency that is generated by a government. A fiat currency is a centralized system that's governed by a single entity. That can be the US dollar, that can be the British pound, that can be the Thai baht. As long as a government is involved, it's a fiat currency.
I love this called Thai baht.
I know, right?
We didn't invent fiat till Roswell. The aliens had some dollar bills when they crash landed.
Yeah, you want to get into the conspiracies of Roswell and all that.
Yeah, what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
My favorite conspiracy theory is the Rockefeller conspiracy theory, that they still control the entire world financially, that they control all the fiat money in the world.
Is that your favorite conspiracy theory that you believe in?
My favorite conspiracy theory that I believe in, 9/11.
That was a left turn.
Yeah, I think overall, it might not be as extreme as many people with 9/11, but I think that our government is totalitarian and has a lot of aspects of it that are military pride, and it wouldn't put it past them to try and build patriotism somehow. And in the early 2000s, we were really down on patriotism. It was the lowest patriotism we had at any point in our country. So you have to take extreme measures in order for your people to believe in you.
Mm-hmm. And then the Patriots started winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to tell my favorite joke.
Hold on. You can tell your favorite joke.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, I just want to ask, on a scale of, I don't know, let's just say, for example, 65 to 135, how intelligent would you say George Bush is?
Really smart.
Okay.
Very, very smart.
That's my issue with most 9/11 conspiracy theorists, is they want to say that this was done by it completely orchestrated.
I don't know if it was completely orchestrated.
But Bush is a dumbass.
No, I mean, if you want to go to the extreme that it was completely orchestrated and a total fabrication by the government, he's the smartest president we've ever had.
Yeah, okay.
Or Cheney is.
Or Cheney is.
Oh, have you seen the movie Vice yet?
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
See, I can get behind you saying he was intelligent and it was manufactured. I cannot get behind the 9/11 conspiracy theorists to say our government's incompetent, Bush was a complete dumbass, and 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah.
I can't have all three.
I'm not saying it was a completely inside job. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that I think that they knew a little bit before it happened. They had to know something.
It looks suspect.
It looks suspect.
There's a lot of red flags.
She was hiding her phone.
Yeah, I think it's okay for people to be like, yeah, there might the government might not be perfect and might do something in order to build patriotism. Like they're thinking about releasing a system called, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's like the Citizen Value Program. It's basically the equivalent of a credit score, but on a government level. Basically, how good of an American citizen are you? And I think that programs like this help people increase their citizen score.
That's not terrifying.
I was about to say, that's scary.
It's super scary, man.
That's as scary as that gun bill that's going through right now.
Wait, hold on. So if I look at Facebook right now, Facebook says I'm a moderate. Where does that put my citizen score at?
I don't know, man. I think either I don't know how the citizen score works, but I have to say that your citizen score is either 0 or like 100. If it's on a scale of 100, it's one or the other, right?
If it's 0, I don't own any firearms. Just want to be clear.
Yep. I have no guns in my house. And if you think I do, you'll never find them. So this alternate reality, it's the 2016 presidential race.
Uh-huh.
And it comes down to a tie. Trump versus Hillary Clinton. So they decide that to end the race, they're going to have an actual race around the White House. So Hillary goes first. And she runs as hard as she frickin' can. Gets done 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And so she's like pretty confident about that. She's like, that old windbag can't beat me at that. So Trump gets up on the starting line. He runs so hard his wig flies off. And crosses the finish line 9 minutes, 12 seconds. And he goes, that's got to be some kind of record. Secret Security guy goes, nah, Bush did 9/11.
I think that I kind of want to tie it into your audience a little bit better.
Tied in, yeah, our mom and our 3 friends.
Please tell me how Rob is going to be interested in this.
Your future audience or whatever.
Yes,
you know?
No, I appreciate that.
I think that the ideology of anybody who's into survivalism or into like this kind of extreme lifestyle, they're into
rugged individualism.
Rugged individualism. They do things by themselves. They want to learn how to do things by themselves, and they want to own themselves. A lot of people probably listen to this are libertarian and that kind of stuff. And if you guys think about this on your daily lives and you think about like the tools you're using and all of that stuff as like a rugged individual thing, you got to think, I'm asking you to step out a little bit bigger and think about your financial life, the structure of the entity that you are beyond the outdoors, the way that you buy your tools, the way that the people that you interact with to get the things that you're using, that is a part of being a rugged individual. There's not a big difference between what you guys are doing in the outdoors and what we're doing on the internet. We're considered the Wild West or that kind of stuff. Really, we're like lumberjacks. We're like the people that are we're out there trying to chop down the right tree. We're out there trying to build the right item to live right now, and we want to be by ourselves. We want to be alone. We want to do things all on ourselves, and we're not that much different. So take a minute to step back and look at like, where does your money come from? Who are you banking with? And all that stuff, and realize that your control from the central government is a lot closer to home than you might think it is.
Okay. I will say something to iterate that point even further. Can't do a Haggard impression.
No, you can't.
Can you please?
You're a wizard, Harry.
No, you really are. So, this is how I'll back that one up. As someone who's looked at a lot of off-the-grid living and would consider themselves a rugged individualist who's currently in flip-flops.
Same.
Rugged.
Yeah, the only one wearing shoes is the nerd. Look, I'm just gonna kick him off. I'm Jesus.
Really? Because I'm Jesus.
I got more fans, but you got more money. So, anyway, as someone as a rugged individualist who's looked at off-the-grid living, it is still amazing to me how many of, for lack of a better description, your people, how many like-minded, we'll call them tech entrepreneurs or cryptologists.
Internet fringe conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I don't know, the Indiana Joneses of the dark web. But how many wizards, we're just going to call them wizards, how many wizards are currently able to live within the grid while being off of the grid? That was something that was kind of amazing to me when we worked together, that I got to see, not necessarily from you, because you have a LinkedIn profile.
He's also got a grinder.
But from the whole community.
He does not have a grinder.
He's got a grinder.
For my weed.
I've never called my boo my weed, but that's pretty slick. But
she grows in inconvenient places and sucks the life out of me.
Exactly like marijuana. Takes all of my electricity.
in a Terminator Salvation way, are inside of the grid without being on the grid. It's a really weird conundrum because you're living with technology while also being off of the grid. And that's, I think, that sentiment can still be shared from behind a computer desk as well as in the woods.
Yeah, I think it boils down to personal sovereignty and the idea that, like, we are who we are, and we're not like, I guess, we're Americans or whatever, but first and foremost, I'm Brandon, and I control Brandon. I think that's the standpoint that you guys come from, right?
You use the term owning yourself, which I think is actually a pretty cool term. I've never actually used that before.
Yeah.
Nor do I think I've heard that before. But owning yourself is a great way to describe that, I think. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to call it mine, say I came up with it, and you stole it.
Perfect, man. As long as this goes, as long as this makes the air, then we'll know the truth, right? It'll be on the blockchain or whatever.
I'm the editing master here, so I can
Unlike
put
the blockchain.
Yeah, I can put those in a different order that make it look like you stole it.
We have a prophet, priest, and king here.
Nah, but we have a judge, jury, and executioner. Dread.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think if you go down to the idea of what does it all boil down to when you're out surviving by yourself, is like you want to be self-reliant. You don't want to be reliant on a government. You don't want to be reliant on your friend or your neighbor or whatever your employer or whatever. You want to be self-reliant, and you can't do that really on a true theoretical level, and even in like a physical level. You can't do that with the current banking systems. Yeah. You just can't. And so, if you're going to take the time to learn how to be an outdoorsman, I think you can also take the way to learn how to be an outdoorsman in your internet life.
And I would say what you're describing is more feasible for most people than the current iteration of off the grid. Mm-hmm. It's a much more feasible way to be off of the grid and still be a functioning member of society.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in my space will give me flack for the way that we're going about this, because we're going about it in a way that like gives the end user like no real like headaches, and like they're just like, oh, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, and like they're all like super against the grain to a point where it's unrealistic, it's tinfoil hatty, it's the dude that like you 1 in a million guy that lives off the grid that is self-sustainable to the max. That's everyone in my industry, and that's not the same with you guys. And I think that's where like we can bridge a gap, is like more people in my industry need to be more like the people in your industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will tell you, you're going to keep getting crap as long as you keep admitting to having a MySpace.
Oh my God, dude! True fact, Google my name, and the fourth result is my freaking MySpace, and I can't get it off.
If my phone wasn't recording us right now, I'd be looking at what kind of thing you uploaded for your background.
Oh God, I don't even know. I think it's probably Panic at the Disco or something stupid like that. I know that my songs are.
I made some regretful choices, but mine's gone. So
I made the fatal mistake in like 2012. Like they switched from MySpace, the social platform, to MySpace, the music platform, and I was big into music at the time, so I converted and I kept the memorial of my MySpace on the internet.
DJ Remy.
Oh yeah, hey Remy, shout out to you, buddy.
I assume there's some of that on your MySpace.
No, I didn't know him back then.
Wow, what a loser.
So I didn't want to sign off in a way. I actually wanted to end by asking you each a question.
Okay.
Why, in your own personal way, why are each of you a rugged individual? Why did you choose to be a rugged individual, and what brought you there?
I didn't choose Doug Left. Doug Left chose me. You got a good answer?
I got a pretty decent answer.
Okay, go for it.
I firmly believe in being an individual instead of a collective, because I believe that every person is responsible for their own actions, good or bad. In the current political, especially in the current political situation of America, nobody is an individual anymore. We're all responsible for the actions of the collectives, of the basest attributes about myself. So I will, in the current climate, I will always be responsible for Casey's actions, is at the same time that I am responsible for all of the actions of all of the straight white males, because those are the most easily picked out portions of me that you can see almost upon meeting me. Mm-hmm. And I highly believe that you are not responsible for the actions of your collective. You are not responsible for the actions of other people. The only thing that it boils down to at the end of the day is that what have I chosen to do with my life? Despite maybe having some advantages, maybe having some disadvantages, it is not about what hand life has dealt me. It is about how I have chosen to play the game. I can justify, as part of a collective, any action every day of the week, and I think that's wrong. I think justification of personal action is firmly against what I believe as a person. So I believe in being an individual and only an individual. You won't catch me being a part of a collective. I might be an individual that involves themselves with the actions of a collective, but I'm never that collective, because that's how the greatest atrocities of humanity have ever been committed, is people start getting this tribal mentality of it's us versus them, instead of I am an individual in a world of individuals, and the way that every individual chooses to act shapes the face of that world. So I do not believe that you can ever consider yourself anything other than an individual, because I believe the individual is the smallest minority and the most in need of protection for their rights.
Great answer. Wow. I guess, if you look at the clock out for other places where you can find us is gpsbud.com.
That's what I was gonna say.
You can use the marijuana app starting July 4th in a beta version. You'll have to sign up for the beta version starting July 4th at gpsbud.com. You can check out the token at privada.cash. That's PRAVADA.cash.
And if I wanted to get a hold of you for, like you said earlier, if I had questions, concerns, I wanted the platform, I need somewhere to send feet pics, where would they go?
So you can find me on Twitter at BrandonJPScott, or you can email me directly at brandon@islandtech.xyz. But yeah, I guess too, I really appreciate you guys bringing me on to the podcast. I think that there's a lot of connections between what I'm doing and what you guys are trying to push out that people don't see, and I hope that the people here today got a little glimpse into maybe working on their finances a little bit and being more independent in their finances. So I really appreciate you guys having me on today.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming out. It's a bit of a drive from where you're at now. And
dude, no problem, man. I'll travel any day, any time to talk about this kind of stuff.
Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. We really appreciate you staying tuned till the end, unless you skipped here.
Yeah.
But we appreciate that, too. Make sure that hit that like button, subscribe, share it with your friends so that they can
suffer too.
Their day's ruined. Yeah. And until next time, hopefully we have some B-roll. If not, done.